This community is a fellowship of the progressive path, open-minded, open-hearted, at least that's our aspiration. This is a place to share insights and ideas, a place to foster faith and sometimes find joy, a place where we can be ourselves and let others do the same, a place where we can be real about our untidy lives and bring our confusion, our pain, our despair. This is a place for the whole of life's experience, as messy as that may be. A place for healing and solace, for solidarity and hope, for encouragement and nurture. A place to face this life in all its complex shadings and to face it together. These words, adapted from some by Cliff Reed, welcome all those who have gathered this morning for our Sunday service. Welcome to those of you who have made it here in person to Essex Church. Welcome to everyone who's joining us via Zoom from far and wide, and indeed anyone who's joining at a later date via YouTube or the podcast. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Jane Blackall and I am minister with Kensington Unitarians. This morning I am especially delighted to welcome my chum Lizzie Kingston-Harrison to co-lead our service. Lizzie's home congregation is in Framlingham in Suffolk. She serves as Congregational Connections Lead with our national Unitarian organisation, the General Assembly, and she's also training for ministry. She's got a lot going on, and we are very lucky to have her joining us in Kensington this morning. The title of today's service is We Contain Multitudes. I'm sure many of you will recognise the nod to Walt Whitman's famous saying. We're going to hear a bit more of his words later on. And we'll be exploring this helpful notion that each of us is made up of many parts. These words from Fernando Pessoa, which are on the front of today's order of service, hint at what's to come. To be great, be whole. Don't exaggerate or leave out any part of you. Be complete in each thing. Put all you are into the least of your acts. So too in each lake with its lofty life, the whole moon shines. But before we go any further, let's do what we always do. We light our chalice flame, this ritual that connects us with Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists the world over, and which reminds us of the proudly progressive religious tradition of which this gathering is part. We light this chalice as a reminder of the tradition that holds us and the values and the aspirations that we share as a community. Our commitment to the common good, our search for truth and meaning, our care for those who are downtrodden, and our yearning for the better world that's yet to be, where all may know true freedom, justice, equality and peace. Time to sing together now. Our first hymn this morning is on your yellow hymn sheet if you're in the room. When we gather here to worship, it's to a fairly well-known tune. I think we'll manage all right. For those joining via Zoom, the words will be up on your screen as they will for all the hymns today. Feel free to stand or sit as you prefer, and let us sing up as best we can when we gather here to worship. So let's take all of those joys and concerns, both spoken and unspoken, into an extended time of prayer now. This prayer is based on some words we use quite often by Elizabeth Bookey. You might want to adjust your position first to get more comfortable. You might want to close your eyes or focus on the candles. Perhaps there's a posture that helps you to feel more centred and prayerful. Whatever helps you to get into the right state of body and mind for us to pray together now, to be present to ourselves, to each other, and to that which lies within us and beyond us. Spirit of life, God of all love, in whom we live and move and have our being. We turn our full attention to you, the light within and without, as we tune into the depths of this life and the greater wisdom to which and through which we are all intimately connected. Be with us now as we allow ourselves to drop into the silence and the stillness at the very centre of our being. We gather in reverence and thanks for you, ground of our being, source of all good. We're grateful for the gift of each breath and for every precious moment of connection and beauty and truth. Cry with us in our pain for this world. Remind us that we're loved just as we are. Remind us that we are connected with all that is. Remind us that we do not journey alone. Give us what we need for today and call us back to our promises, our commitments and our values. Help us to love ourselves and each other and to show that love in our actions. Make us instruments of justice, equity and compassion. Free us from all that is evil. Keep us from wrong. For we declare that life and love are stronger than tyranny and fear. That a world of beauty and love is still coming, and we must shape it together. And let's take a few quiet moments now to look inward, to get in touch with what's real, what's going on beneath the surface of our lives this morning. Let us notice what we're carrying, what troubles us, what questions or uncertainties we are facing, or what hopes we nurture. And from that place of realness, silently and inwardly, ask for what you most need. Don't worry too much about who or what you're asking. Maybe it's God, or maybe you're just casting it out into the universe. Even if you're the only one to hear your prayer, be clear on what it is you need in this moment. And let us also be sure to give thanks for what we already have. Let us look back on the week just gone and recall all of those moments, be they large or small, moments of kindness, generosity or comfort, moments of joy perhaps. Let us silently and inwardly take the time to savour all these gifts, to connect with our sense of gratitude and take in what's good. And let us turn outwards now, shifting our attention to the world around us, from those who are closest to our heart, out to neighbours and strangers, to our wider community, stretching ever onward as we sense our connection to every living being we share this planet with, and hold them all in love. Spirit of life, God of all love, as this time of prayer draws to a close, we offer up our joys and our concerns, our hopes and our fears, our beauty and our brokenness. And we call on you for insight, healing and renewal. As we look forward now to the coming week, help us to live well each day and be our best selves, using our unique gifts in the service of love, justice and peace. Amen. Time to sing again now. Our second hymn is a lovely gentle one. It's number 11 in your purple books. Blessed Spirit of my life. Hymn number 11.
Morning, everyone, and thank you to Jane for such a wonderful introduction. And thank you to you all for having me. It's lovely to be here. You'd think, given that I'd never been here before and that I'm a little bit of a stranger to you, that I might have chosen perhaps a gentle reading to start with. Unfortunately, I chose an extremely challenging Bible passage, and I know that you don't have a lot of passages from the Bible shared here, so already it's like a sort of double a double issue going on. I think what I need to say is that this can be hard to hear, but I hold this story myself with absolute love and compassion for everybody involved in the story. And it is hard to hear, but like me, I hope that you're able to hold this and stay with it in the light of love and perhaps at a little distance, maybe not over-identifying with any one person in the tale. And I promise that we'll return to it in the talk. And I promise that I have something for you that is about the hope and the healing and the wholeness that I know is part of the vision of this beloved community. Our reading is from Mark. They went across the lake to the region of Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came up from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with a chain. For when he was chained hand and foot, he tore the chains apart and broke the irons with his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. And night and day, among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. And when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. And he shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." And then Jesus asked his name. "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside, and the demons begged Jesus, "Send us then among the pigs, allow us to go into them." And he gave them permission, and the spirits came out and went into the pigs.
Thanks, Lizzie. What are we going to make of that reading? We'll hear more about it later on, of course. In the meantime, we're moving into a time of meditation. To take us into the stillness, I'm going to share an excerpt from Walt Whitman's famous Song of Myself, from which the well-known saying about containing multitudes is taken. The poem will take us into a few minutes of shared silence, which will end with the sound of a bell. And then we can hear some more music from Benjie and Andrew for our continued reflections. So again, let's do what we need to do to get comfortable. You might want to get your feet flat on the floor if that helps you to feel grounded and steadied. You might want to close your eyes. And as I always say, the words are just an offering. Feel free to use this time to meditate in your own way. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me as good as belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. I am the poet of the body, and I am the poet of the soul. I am of the universe. I am the mother of all, and I have no beginning nor end. The earth is full of me, and I am a part of it. I am a common person. I am the voice of the unknown. I am a vast, eternal self, with all the worlds and possibilities in me. Do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. I celebrate the simple things, the laughing of the children, the feeling of the breeze, the rhythm of the stars. I am not a mere idea. I am a living being, and I have a connection with all that is.
Thank you. That was so beautiful that I forgot I was meant to stand up and talk. And I think it might have said everything that I need to say. I think I can just go. I've written you a talk that's kind of structured around a number of wonderful hobbies that I have. And I hope that you have weird and wonderful pastimes when you're not here. And I hope that you collect beetles and stamps and go bell ringing and do roadkill taxidermy and reunite lost mittens. That's a real one. And reverse trolling. Anyone do reverse trolling on the internet? Commenting nicely on people's posts. And one of the random things that I do these days is that I gather things, I collect things that symbolize or speak to different parts of myself. I have a necklace. I didn't wear it today because I have an overly dramatic collar instead. It has a little silver feather to remind that perfectionist part of me, my inner critic, just to drift rather than strive. To quote Hildegard von Bingen, I am a feather floating on the breath of God. And I have a little scallop shell and a ring of shells, that great symbol of pilgrimage. The pilgrims would ask for food on their journey to fill the shell, just enough for the day and nothing more. And of course, I use it to remind that part of me that wants more, that kind of striving, greedy part, that anxious part. I do enough. I have enough. I am enough. And I wrote this talk a couple of days ago because there's nothing like a deadline, is there, to get you motivated. So I wrote this on Friday and I counted perhaps in my study about 30 objects or images or cards that give voice to parts of myself, or they somehow soothe or ground those parts. And I don't know what it's like for you, but my gut instinct is that you know what I mean intuitively, that you too are a kind of patchwork of selves. It kind of seems intuitive. We use it, we talk like that sometimes, but I think we need to bring it to the surface. I think there's part of you that is grown up and mature and got here on time, got dressed this morning, showed up. Yeah, thanks for nodding, Connie. Exactly. You did, didn't you? But I think there's also part of you that sits and worries and gets stressed and thinks things might go wrong. And maybe you have an inner child. And I wonder if she's sitting in there right now, playing happily and finding joy in everyday moments. Or maybe she's not. Maybe she's feeling a bit sad or lost or anxious. This talk is a reminder to all of you that you contain multitudes. And that understanding ourselves is accepting that we are greater than the sum of our parts. And that listening to those parts of ourselves and speaking kindly back to them is a way to healing and wholeness. I do enough. I have enough. I am enough. That feels like a really gentle and kind way to speak to the part of you that feels inadequate. But I know that we don't always speak kindly to those parts of ourselves. And they don't always speak kindly to us either. I think perhaps you have an inner critic who tells you that you're not good enough, that you've done something wrong. Do you remind your inner child? Do you say, I'm proud of you? We did really well today. Why not have a rest before you do your work? But when they speak back to you and they sound cross or angry or cruel, remember that there's a message in there too. They do it in ways that are challenging, don't they? Our name is Legion, for we are many. And right there, I think, is the depth of the pain and the joy and the darkness and the light of this being human. One of the awesome things for me about being Unitarian is that when we talk about unity and wholeness, we don't mean sameness, we mean integration. That's why we use the word gathering, right? We're a gathering. We've all collected ourselves. So we've picked each other up from various places and gathered ourselves into a basket. We pull the strands together. We collect the lost folks, gather them up. Here we all are. We're okay together. We don't need to think alike, to love alike. We bring our wonderful, unique selves and we become whole as a community. And so if wholeness isn't about being one thing all of the time, either together or as a person, that's a good message, right? You don't have to be always fine and always happy and always perfect and always healed. Why not contradict yourself? You are large. You contain multitudes. You are lost and found, I think, and lonely and connected, and productive and successful, and confused and lazy and doubting. You're a strong adult. You showed up today, but you're also a vulnerable child. It's all about all of you showing up for all of yourself, taking part in the process, the movement of integration or gathering. To be great is to be whole, so too in every lake the whole moon shines. And I don't really know why I'm someone who externalizes to internalize, but I need like a necklace. It's just another jewelry buying opportunity, obviously. I need a necklace or a picture of the moon to remind myself of that. And I wonder what you need to listen to the parts of yourself. I have a friend who has meetings. He sits with himself and sits down and listens to the quietest voices within. And the thing is if we don't listen to all of those varieties of ourselves, they have a habit of finding other ways to communicate. And sometimes they jump out anyway. I wonder if you've ever had a falling out with anyone and then realized that you were kind of arguing with yourself and not them, or projecting something onto them. They become a kind of external version of a question that you're actually asking yourself. I'm not really a magical thinker. So people are quite surprised that recently I've got into tarot cards. And I'm just realizing now that what with that reading and the tarot cards, I'm more a spiritual person in the sense that I have a spirituality. But these are not to tap into the spirit world or to predict the future. There are 22 cards in the tarot pack that represent the archetypal parts of the self. And at different times and in different ways, as is probably already obvious, I am the Fool and the Hierophant and the Emperor and the Empress and the Star and the Tower and the Sun. And I pick up the cards at random and I use them to hear those parts of myself. And I love that ultimately, whether we're meeting in community or meeting ourselves, it's the same thing. These representations of the elemental things inside us. The cards remind me that the parts of the self are also held at that collective level. We share some of those parts. We are a group of children together right now, and a group of adults. The inner and the outer are held within and between us. And that is being whole. I celebrate myself and sing myself for what I assume you shall assume, and every atom belonging to me as good as belongs to you. The Bible reading that I shared comes from Mark, and it's actually midway through a series of teachings and parables. And I wonder if they themselves should be integrated, because that's what a parable is, right? It's a parabola. It's this great arc, and we're there looking up at the parable and trying to find meaning in its shape. And so earlier in Mark's gospel, you are invited to imagine that the kingdom of heaven is a mustard seed, this tiny but power-packed experience of connection with the divine within. And you can kind of imagine Jesus sitting there and teaching this and holding up a seed, and everyone saying, well, that doesn't look very impressive. But can you imagine it representing that part of you that yearns for transcendent meaning and is being nourished and is growing in this community? And Jesus represents the part of us that is pointing the way. And then the next bit, the apostles and Jesus, the disciples and Jesus go on a boat over a lake. And they are caught in a huge storm. And how many of us have had such storms? I know that I've had storms in my life where I've been terrified. And Jesus calms the water. And then they arrive. And so already you have some parts of the self emerging in this story. And when they arrive on the shore of the lake, they find a man. And he's a person in such pain. And I wonder if all of us have a part of ourselves that is in pain in that way. And I really feel for him. He's living amongst the graves. He's confused. He's lost. He's hurting himself. He's ashamed. He's hiding. And perhaps you know what it feels like to feel that kind of pain. And yet in the midst of that pain, perhaps there's been part of you, a loving and transformative part, that has seen and named it. Because remember, Jesus names the demons. And in Jewish culture, you can't exorcise something until you've named it, until you've brought it up into the light. And I know it's hard to do that. And I know that there are parts of you that you are burying and holding away and that you're not listening to. And it is so much easier to bury them, isn't it? But we know from this story that this multitude of suffering parts is hurting the man so much that he cannot eat or wear clothes or live among others. And none of us wants to be outcast like him. And none of us wants to be exiled. But I think the exiling in this story is not the casting out of demons. I don't think the healing comes from the exiling, the casting out, the pigs throwing themselves away. I think it is the burying of those parts in the man way before he met Jesus that was the attempted exiling. And I think the healing is in the naming of the bringing up into the light of the integration. The naming of the shadows of the self. Even when they shout and they squirm and they resist and they scream and they beg to be left alone, I think that's where the healing is. And I don't know or understand Jewish culture well enough to stretch this too far, but I do know that we are the mustard seed and the storm and Jesus calming the storm, and with a man suffering and the demons and even the pigs. No one is cast out in the story. The demons beg to stay, and they do stay in the area. They end up in the water that just verses before is a symbol of calmed suffering. I know the reading is difficult and complicated, but I hope that somewhere in there is a message of integration and healing that is far, far from the idea that anyone should be healed in the sense of having literal spirits cast out. And then the story goes on to say how everyone was incredibly cross about this, and they moaned about Jesus, and they felt that he was trouble, and they wished he'd never sailed over the stormy lake to see them. And I know in my life how unfair it's felt and how much grumbling I've done when I've had to work on those parts of me that needed integration. But this is life, isn't it? The naming of the difficult things. This is the work. This is the wholeness and the integration. My final, lesser-known pastime to share with you is collecting stories about people who've had personality changes after organ transplants, of which there are many. I'm going to tell you the final thing I tell you is a story of a young woman of 19 who loved dancing and wanted to be a doctor. And she died dancing at 19. And her heart went to another woman of the same age. And her recipient said, "I think of her as a sister. I only know she was a girl my age, but it's more than that. I talk to her at night and when I'm sad, and I feel her answering me in my chest. I put my left hand there and press it with my right. It's like I can connect with her. And she's so sad. I think she wanted to be like a nurse or something, or maybe she wanted to be on Broadway. I think she wanted to be on Broadway more. And I could be a doctor too. And I hope she'll be happy when I am, because she's my angel, my sister in my chest, and I carry my angel with me everywhere." And most people don't get to experience integration in such a viscerally literal way. But I think we do have heart sisters of our own to listen to, parts of ourselves that when we touch our hearts, they feel it. And when we listen, they talk to us and they want to be heard. And my invitation to you is to hear them, to integrate them. That's the miracle. You contain multitudes. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lizzie. Just one more hymn to sing now. It's one that's becoming a favourite on your yellow hymn sheet, "The Church Where Love Lives." I think we more or less know it now, but I will get Andrew to play it through if that's all right. If he will, yeah, please. Stand up and give it your best shot. Smashing. Just a few announcements now. Thanks so much again to Lizzie for coming to co-lead our service today. Thanks to Ramona for tech hosting and Charlotte for co-hosting online. Thank you to Benjie and Andrew for the lovely music. Thanks to Pat and Anna who have just gone out to put the kettle on, and John who's been greeting. For those of you who are here in person, stay for tea. Please stay for tea. We've got 2 cakes this week, coffee and walnut or orange cake. So please help us eat it. Once you've had your tea and cake, Margaret will be leading the Find Your Voice singing class back here in the church from 12:30 for 45 minutes. And after that, we'll be having the art play Crafternoon in the room next door. We just get all the art materials out of the cupboard and sit there messing about, enjoying ourselves, having a chat until 3 o'clock. That's once a month. Tonight and Friday at 7, we've got our regular Heart and Soul Contemplative Spiritual Gathering online. This week's theme is Achievement. Let me know if you want to sign up for that. We also have a once a month in-person Heart and Soul this Wednesday at 7. Let me know if you're planning to join for that. More cake is likely. This month for the Better World Book Club, we're reading Monsters, What Do We Do With Great Art by Bad People by Claire Dedra. You've only got a week to read that. If you really want to come along and struggling to get hold of a book, I will still try and get one to you if need be. Next Sunday we'll be back here at 11 when our service will be titled, What Do We Do With Our Pain? I should also mention that, ta-da, the spring newsletter is out. If you remember, I have probably already sent you a copy. If you haven't had one yet, feel free to take one. Anyone's welcome to take one. Take one to give to a friend if you like. This is how people find out what we're about, and it would be lovely to have more people join us every week, though it's a fantastic bumper crowd this Sunday. This congregation very much has a life beyond Sunday mornings, so we encourage you to keep in touch, look out for each other, and do what you can to nurture supportive connections. It's time for our closing words, so I'll invite Lizzie to offer our benediction.
The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, "Sit here, eat." You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf and the photographs and the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life.